This is Super Wrestle Machine. Here's what I found for August 22, 2016. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel. Resistance is futile. To be the man, you gotta beat the man. August 22, 2016 Wrestling Observer Newsletter, WWE SummerSlam, UFC 202, NXT TakeOver Previews, G1 Climax Review, tons more. By Observer Staff. Wrestling Observer Newsletter. P.O. Box 1228, Campbell, California 950091228. ISSN 10,839,593. August 22, 2016. G1 Climax Day 1 at Sumo Hall. Thumbs up 93, 98.9%. Thumbs down 0, 0%. In the middle 1, 10%. Best match poll. Hiroshi Tanahashi vs Kazuchika Okada 94. Worst match poll. Briscoes vs Captain and Yoshitatsu 52. Tama Tonga vs Bad Luck Fale 22. G1 Climax Day 2 at Sumo Hall. Thumbs up 103, 99.0%. Thumbs down 0, 0%. In the middle 1, 0%. Best match poll. Kenny Omega vs Tetsuya Naito 104. Worst match poll. Toru Yano vs Yoshihashi 58. G1 Climax Day 3 at Sumo Hall. Thumbs up 101, 100.0%. Thumbs down 0, 0%. In the middle 0, 0%. Best match poll. Kenny Omega vs Hiroki Goto 101. Worst match poll. Geto and Jado vs Captain and Yoshitatsu 68. Based on emails and phone calls to the Observer as of Tuesday, 8/16. The biggest weekend of the summer, featuring one of UFC's biggest fights in history, WWE's third biggest show of the year, what is, theoretically, NXT's biggest show of the year, although in reality it's the second biggest, as well as the sixth Super J Cup in history, runs from 8/19 to 8/21. The big event is UFC 202 on August 20th at the T-Mobile Arena, featuring a rematch of the biggest money fight in company history, Conor McGregor vs Nate Diaz. Their first fight, held on March 5 in Las Vegas, did 1.6 million buys on PPV, the largest non-boxing PPV event in history. With Diaz winning, the feeling is a rematch would only be bigger. But for a number of reasons, there didn't appear to be the excitement level expected. PPV is still a last 3 days impulse buy. And at the press conference on August 17, the bottle-throwing escapade put it over the top, and whatever number it was going to get is likely a lot higher, even though it's a lot easier to get mainstream sports attention for UFC in early March than it will be this week with the Olympics. Also, the Holly Holm vs Miesha Tate fight, with the benefit of hindsight, is probably a very underrated aspect of that PPV number. Most McGregor-led cards have been loaded, and this one is really a two-fight show, with Anthony Johnson vs Glover Teixeira in a fight that will probably determine the next contender for light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier, plus has Donald Cerrone third from the top. So on August 17, came the press conference. McGregor showed up about 30 minutes late, and first claimed he thought it started at 1:30 p.m. local time, then made a remark about Las Vegas traffic. Funny that WWE did the same angle the night before. Somebody asked that if McGregor won, since Diaz gave McGregor a rematch right away when he lost, would McGregor do the same? Before McGregor arrived, Dana White had said that either McGregor's next fight is defending his featherweight title against Jose Aldo, or he'll have to vacate the title. McGregor said there would be a trilogy, but it wouldn't be immediate. About 4 minutes after McGregor showed up, Nick Diaz showed up and waved to his brother. While McGregor was talking, Nate Diaz off camera, got up and left. McGregor started yelling at him. The entire Diaz team was walking off and somebody threw a bottle at McGregor. McGregor then threw a bottle back at them. McGregor then grabbed Glover Teixeira's water bottle and threw that. Security grabbed McGregor and Dana White called off the press conference. White was clearly pissed. He was pissed from the start as they started late waiting for McGregor, and he wasn't happy about that, and he was even more unhappy. While the escapade will work as far as getting attention and selling the fight, throwing bottles back and forth with so many fans and media there in the line of fire could have been a bad idea. It's a lock that both will be called before the commission and probably fined heavily, Since the commission already established precedent with a $50,000 fine on John Jones and $9,000 fine on Daniel Cormier in 2014, as well as ordering both to do 40 and 20 hours respectively of community service in their home city. The show starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with Fight Pass bouts of Alberto Yuta, 9-1, versus Marvin Vettori, 10-2, Colby Covington, 9-1, versus Max Griffin, 10-2, and Neil Magny, 18-4, versus Lawrence Larkin, 17-5, 1 no contest. Magny versus Larkin to me is the third biggest fight on the show, with the winner getting into the top welterweight mix. The FS1 show, which goes head-to-head with NXT TakeOver, starts at 8 p.m. with Courtney Casey, 5-3, versus Rhonda Marcos, 6-3, Artem Lobov, 11-12, 1 no contest, versus Chris Avila, 5-2, Raquel Pennington, 7-6, versus Elizabeth Phillips, 5-3, and a big bantamweight fight with Corey Garbrandt, 9-0, versus Takaya Mizugaki, 21-9-2. With a win, Garbrandt could get himself a title shot. The PPV card has Tim Means, 25-7-1, versus Sabah Homasi, 11-5, Youngyu Lim, 13-5-1, versus Mike Perry, making his UFC debut with a 7-0 record, all knockouts, 6 in the first round and 1 in the second round. Donald Cerrone, 30-7, 1 no contest, versus Rick Story, 19-8, Johnson, 21-5, versus Teixeira, 25-4, and McGregor, 19-3, versus Diaz, 19-10. As far as the ticket sales go, when they dropped the $365 to $200, they sold them out. There are still a ton of unsold mid-price range tickets on sale. At press time, the secondary market lowest price to get in has dropped to $203. Even though Diaz came in the first time with only limited training and not in his best shape, and still won via second-round submission, McGregor is a slight favorite at every major sportsbook. Perhaps the feeling is that of the two, McGregor is the hungrier. McGregor needs to make big money and live big. Diaz doesn't love fighting, but fights to make money and now has far more money than he ever dreamed possible. McGregor wants to be in the spotlight and be recognized as an all-time great. Diaz is very happy as long as he's comfortable and has no need to fight except for the money. Still, at the press conference, McGregor was not himself. If anything, the evidence from the first fight is that Diaz can take McGregor's best punches, and that McGregor's stamina is an issue carrying as much weight as he did when fighting at welterweight. SummerSlam, the middle of the WWE's 3 straight sold-out shows at the Barclays Center, will be a 6+ hour streaming event starting at 5 p.m. Eastern. Similar to WrestleMania, they are doing a 2-hour pre-game show, along with a 4+ hour main show. There are 11 matches announced and they haven't announced which matches will air during the pre-show, although the late announced women's trios match is likely to be there. The lineup has Brock Lesnar, -350 favorite, versus Randy Orton, Dean Ambrose, -700 favorite, defending the WWE World title against Dolph Ziggler, Finn Balor, -160 favorite, facing Seth Rollins for the WWE Universal title, AJ Styles, -300 favorite, versus John Cena, Rusev, -300 favorite, defending the U.S. title against Roman Reigns, The Miz defending the IC title against Apollo Crews, -200 favorite, Sasha Banks, -1,200 favorite, defending the women's title against Charlotte, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods defending the tag titles against Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, -250 favorite, Sheamus, -140 favorite, versus Cesaro in the first match of a best-of-7 series, Enzo Amore and Big Cass, -600 favorites, versus Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens and Carmella and Becky Lynch and Naomi versus Eva Marie and Natalya and Alexa Bliss. Keep in mind these odds don't really mean much until Saturday or Sunday, when you have the late betting often based on the production meeting taking place and insiders looking to make money. Cena being an underdog is likely because he got the pin over Styles last month and is about to go on another hiatus soon and doing the second season of American Grit. Jericho is also leaving at some point to go back to music with Fozzy, but the exact time frame is unknown. The building is sold out. Last year's real number was 13,400, so they'll likely announce something over 16,000. The show is sold out and the secondary market low price to get in is $134. The long show should enable the top 5 matches to all get significant time. Normally on a PPV, the company has to choose usually 2 matches that they are giving significant time to, and a few others in the 10 to 13 minute range. The second NXT takeover at the Barclays Center will be on August 20th. They will tape 2 matches, as yet not announced, for the 8/24 NXT television show starting at 7:30 p.m. The live show goes on the air at 8 p.m. and the 6-match show will go just over 2 hours. What's notable is that on this NXT show, there is not one wrestler on the show who actually got their start in NXT. A few, Scott Dawson, Dash Wilder, and No Way Jose, were all Carolina's independent guys for several years who came into NXT with no national name, and the same goes for Bayley, who started on California Indies years before coming to NXT, but came in without a name. Ember Moon didn't have a huge name on the indie scene but also had years of experience and was well known by women wrestling fans before she ever signed. The rest of the wrestlers were genuine stars on the indie scene, the international scene or with major promotions. Next year, when WWE tells investors how NXT turned out 8 new wrestlers, or whatever the number will be, and it's due to NXT, when those people are Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode or Shinsuke Nakamura, it's kind of a funny thing. The lineup from bottom to top is a singles match debuting Moon, followed by Austin Aries vs No Way Jose, Bobby Roode vs Andrade Cien Almas, The Revival, Dawson and Wilder, defending the tag team titles against Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, which has been WWE's best house show match the past month, Asuka defending the women's title against Bayley and Samoa Joe defending the NXT title against Nakamura. The top 3 matches should all be tremendous in different ways. Ruda vs Almas is interesting just because of the style clash aspect of it. The show is also sold out, but as noted last week, the deal for all 3 WWE events is that because they had the 3 sellouts last year, the ticket brokers immediately grabbed as many seats as possible. For SummerSlam, the demand was there to begin with. With NXT, they overestimated as the interest is nowhere near what it was last year. There are more than 3,000 seats at StubHub alone at press time and prices are as low as $15. For Raw, it's in the middle, as the low price to get in is $47. For reasons unknown, New Japan World has pulled the listing of the Super J-Cup on August 21st. In fact, nothing is listed going forward other than Arena Mexico shows the next 2 Fridays and they aren't available to subscribers outside of Japan. Considering this is one of the company's major events, held at the Ariake Coliseum and has a loaded lineup, and that the first round aired, the decision is strange. Raw opens the weekend on August 19th with the Death Before Dishonor PPV from Sam's Town in Las Vegas, which starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. There will be a pre-show match with Candice LeRae vs Veda Scott. The PPV card has Lio Rush vs Jay White vs Donovan Dijak vs Kamaitachi to determine a contender for the TV title, Jay Briscoe vs Hangman Page, Rocky Romero and Beretta and Toru Yano, whose act will be very interesting since it's all about low blows and tearing the padding off turnbuckles, versus Yujiro Takahashi, who has little going for him except the women he brings out for his ring entrances and those are only limited to major shows, and Tama Tonga and Tangaroa, never champion Katsuyori Shibata vs Silas Young in a non-title match, IWGP champion Kazuchika Okada vs Dalton Castle in a non-title match, a 3-way for the Raw Tag titles with Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian vs Hiroshi Tanahashi and Michael Elgin and Tetsuya Naito and Evil, Bobby Fish vs Mark Briscoe for the TV title and Jay Lethal vs Adam Cole for the Raw title. A key to this presentation will be the crowd micing. Recent Raw PPVs haven't done a good job as it has sounded very quiet while those who attend live say the crowds were not just rabid, but super rabid. This makes the matches seem not as good as they really are. I was at the last show in Sam's Town, and the 800-seat building has good sight lines but it was a crowd that really only reacted big to a few things, and seemed like they were there mostly for the Young Bucks, who are not even on this card because they are in Japan for the Super J-Cup. So while the crowd micing wasn't the best there, in the sense that when the crowd went wild live, it wasn't evident watching later on TV, the fact is, it was not a rabid crowd at all and that was a PPV show with all the top New Japan stars. Going on a UFC weekend in Las Vegas seems to have made it tough to sell tickets, although with the size of the building, they don't need that many tickets to sell to pack it. Kenny Omega became the first foreign star to win the G1 Climax tournament and putting on a performance both in and out of the ring that established him as either the best, or near the best, all-around performer in the business. Omega's work in having 2 of the year's best matches, with Tetsuya Naito on August 14th in the match that determined who would win the B block, and with Hiroki Goto in the finals the next afternoon, was only part of the equation. He came across as an incredible superstar in getting over the win after the match, as well as in his post-match press conference and day-after press conference. Omega was only the 3rd who would be considered a North American, Technically Masahiro Chono, Mr. G1, was born in Seattle, and Riki Choshu was born in South Korea, and Hiroyoshi Tenzan also has a different birth name that is Korean and not Japanese, but in Japan it had been considered that only Japanese had won the tournament to ever reach the finals of the G1, after Rick Rude in 1992 and Carl Anderson in 2012. Several North Americans including Killer Carl Krupp, Pedro Morales, Masked Superstar, Stan Hansen and Dick Murdoch had reached the finals of pre-G1 New Japan heavyweight tournaments, and Andre the Giant, 1982 and 1985, and Hulk Hogan, 1983, had won tournaments before the inception of the G1 in 1991. The tournament ended up brilliantly booked in the sense that it created a multitude of storylines. Omega, slotted to take the place of AJ Styles as the top foreign star, became a clear and legit superstar with the win, and reports were that his merchandise had started to sell like crazy since the win. Goto continued his long storyline of almost always falling short in the big matches. The two top stars, Kazuchika Okada and Hiroshi Tanahashi, kept their feud open-ended with a brilliant time limit draw. The time limit draw only added to the drama the next night, since the draw at 30:00 was in everyone's mind, and Naito only needed a draw to go to the finals, and Omega got the pin on Naito in 28-12. The tournament will set up the entire fall and winter for New Japan. Okada, the IWGP champion, lost in the tournament to Bad Luck Fale and Nemichi Marufuji, both of whom he later challenged for title matches later this year. He also lost to Tomohiro Ishii in what was probably the best match of the tournament, but they look to be holding that rematch off for a while. IC champion Michael Elgin, who lost in the tournament to Evil, Naito, Katsuhiko Nakajima, and Toru Yano, will likely defend against several of them between now and the end of the year, with Naito likely the biggest defense since they did an angle for it on August 14. Never champion Katsuyori Shibata also lost to Evil, Elgin, Tomoaki Honma, and Yano. Omega lost to Elgin, Shibata and Yoshihashi. He has to defend his number one contender's spot for winning the tournament until January 4 at the Tokyo Dome. He already heavily talked about Yoshihashi, which is likely on one of the Destruction shows, and will probably have a second defense at King of Pro Wrestling on October 10. He talked about both a title shot with Okada and avoided but strongly gave the impression of a major match coming with Kota Ibushi. Omega and Ibushi had the Tokyo Sports Winning Match of the Year award in 2012 at Sumo Hall, and Omega brought that up many times after winning the tournament. During the finals with Goto, he used Ibushi's last ride power bomb, but missed a Phoenix Splash. The storyline was that Omega failed to beat Goto using the finishers of former Bullet Club leaders AJ Styles and Prince Devitt, as well as that of former tag partner Ibushi, but was able to win using his own one-winged angel in 26:49. The idea is that he firmly established himself not only as the leader of the Bullet Club, but in theory, the best wrestler in the history of the club. Omega talked heavily about how the Bullet Club's popularity in Japan had gone down, with Los Ingobernables taking their place when it came to merchandise sales. But he did point out that in almost every major promotion in the world, the Bullet Club exists in a big way and it is still stronger worldwide. He said that without the Elite, Omega and the Young Bucks, wrestling is boring and it sucks. He talked about how days like this only happen once in a lifetime, and that people shouldn't be afraid to dream and reach for the stars, but when you're about to reach for the top and get it, someone like me is going to swoop in and take it away because I'm more talented, have more drive, more determination. He talked about how he's staying in New Japan, and made a WWE reference. In the middle of his promo, he said hi to all the wrestlers in Orlando who were watching him and said that they can use his matches in G1 as study lessons. He challenged Okada, noting he has never beaten Okada, because he's never had a chance to beat him. What's notable is that this was Omega's first G1 tournament, and 1 year ago he was a mid-carder trading the junior heavyweight title back and forth with Kushida. He said that the Japanese wrestlers have the biggest hearts in the world, and never give up, but he's 2 times as talented as any wrestler in the locker room. While Omega said he was not leaving, his contract does expire at the end of January. There is an option year on his current contract, but he would legally be able to field offers at that time. The main events on the final 3 days, Tanahashi vs Okada, and Omega vs Naito and Goto, were almost as good, if not as good as the big 3 last year, which were Tanahashi vs Styles, Okada vs Shinsuke Nakamura and Tanahashi vs Nakamura. That was a ridiculous standard to live up to. Both Tanahashi and Styles say their best career match was the one last year. Tanahashi vs Nakamura was probably the best G1 final in history. Omega vs Naito was an amazing match, along with Okada vs Ishii. It should go down as one of the greatest bouts in G1 history, and Okada vs Tanahashi and Omega vs Goto were right with it. But where this year's last three shows have the edge is that they were deeper than last year's, with great matches like Elgin vs Nakajima, Ishii vs Togi Makabe and Goto vs Marufuji, as well as an incredible angle to start a New Japan vs Noah program. The booking was also more interesting, as it was filled with surprises that elevated people and pretty much set up the next 5 months of big shows in 3 days. Even with a somewhat struggling first week, the tournament has to, all things considered, be a major success. In the end, the match quality was amazing. While everybody was hurting, nobody missed a match, and nobody is so seriously hurt that, hopefully, it won't affect the match quality for the rest of the year as has happened in years past. Tanahashi, in particular, remarkably seemed to get healthier and stronger since it was clear he started the tour well before he was fully healed. None of the top stars were hurt. Perhaps they should have done more with Hiroyoshi Tenzan, but it appeared this was about building the future, and Tenzan would have been a very short-term nostalgia deal. Still, he's the one guy I'd have booked differently. Ishii, Seiya Sanada, Elgin, Omega, Shibata and Yoshihashi all ended up stronger than they started, in some cases substantially stronger. Tama Tonga showed more signs of stardom than at any time this year as well. The story on August 12th was that Tanahashi, Okada, Bad Luck Fale, Goto and Marufuji were all still alive. Tonga beat Fale to eliminate him. Goto, who had lost in the tournament to both Okada and Tanahashi, then beat Marufuji. The only way Goto could advance was if Tanahashi and Okada drew or did a double count-out. So the story of the match is that both were desperate in the end and beating the clock, doing finisher after finisher that was unsuccessful. Tanahashi ducked a Rainmaker, hit the Sling Blade, did a crossbody off the top and went to the top for the high fly flow, and the bell rung at the 2 count with Okada not kicking out. The idea was that Tanahashi should have won, but didn't, keeping him strong after Okada had beaten him at the Tokyo Dome. They did actually have to gimmick the time, as they were a little slow in getting to the destination. The match was announced as a 30-minute draw, but they actually went 4 seconds over, and in Japan, usually they are sticklers on time. The next night it came down to Shibata, Elgin, Naito, and Omega. Shibata was eliminated by losing to Evil, which seemed to set up an ever title match. Similarly, Elgin was eliminated by losing to Nakajima in an incredible match which should set up a future IC title match. Because Naito was 6-2 and Omega was 5-3, it was noted that Naito could have won with either a double countout or a draw. They really didn't tease the double countout strong, but in going past the 25-minute mark, very much teased the idea of the draw, with Omega winning with less than 2 minutes left. A block final standings: first place, Goto 6-3, second place, Tanahashi and Okada 5-3-1, fourth place, Marufuji and Fale 5-4, sixth place, Sanada, Ishii, Tonga and Makabe 4-5, 10th place, Tenzan was 2-7. B block final standings: first place, Omega 6-3, wins based on head-to-head result, second place, Naito 6-3, third place, Elgin, Nakajima, Toru Yano and Shibata 5-4, seventh place Evil 4-5, eighth place, Tomoaki Honma, Yuji Nagata and Yoshihashi 3-6. They officially announced what everyone knows, that Wrestle Kingdom 11 would take place on January 4th at the Tokyo Dome. The other announcement was that a time bomb would be coming on November 5th, which is the date of the Power Struggle show. It is believed to be the return of Suzuki Gun after nearly 2 years with Noah. New Japan vs Noah came from a match on August 14th where Noah's Masaki Tamiya and Maibach Taniguchi and Go Shiozaki and Nakajima faced New Japan's Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Manabu Nakanishi and Yuji Nagata and Katsuyori Shibata. The match was incredible, as was the post-match brawl, with the sick key point being Shibata doing a headbutt on Nakajima and the two of them beating on each other so hard it was past uncomfortable to watch. Shibata busted his own head open in the drama, with the bloodied Shibata going wild on the Noah guys, particularly Nakajima and Shiozaki, created a different level of heat. While no doubt some of this will be key for Noah, hopefully the feud isn't only there, like the Noah vs Suzuki Gun feud. Shibata in particular came across like a guy ready for the top position, and it wouldn't be the right time for him to disappear. Going forward, New Japan starts touring again on September 4th. In September, the title matches will be divided into 3 separate shows instead of one big show, with Destruction in Tokyo on September 17th at the Ota War Gym, Destruction in Hiroshima on September 22nd at the Sun Plaza Arena, And the big show is Destruction in Kobe on September 23 at the Kobe World Memorial Hall. The building Dragon Gate just ran its biggest event of the year. From there, King of Pro Wrestling, one of the company's big 5 events of the year, and the biggest between now and the Tokyo Dome, will be on October 10 at Sumo Hall. I think Okada vs Marufuji and Elgin vs Naito have a good shot at headlining that show. Power Struggle, which will be the last IWGP title match of the year, and the night the Tokyo Dome main event, as well as much of the top of the card, becomes official, takes place on November 5 at the Edion Arena in Osaka. The annual tag team tournament will be from 11/18 to 12/10. From a business standpoint, the tournament gained tremendous momentum after the second week. Owner Takaaki Kidani talked about how they sold more tickets for G1 this year than any other year, but that's terribly misleading since they had 19 shows this year as compared to anywhere from 4 to 10 between 1991 and 2014. Here were the direct market comparisons, leaving out Karaku and Hall since every G1 event there sells out immediately. Sapporo last year was headlined by Tanahashi vs Ibushi and this year by Okada vs Marufuji, and both sold out. Takamatsu was up from 2,070 to 2,144 with Okada vs Honma last year and Naito vs Honma this year. But that's essentially the same. Fukuoka was up from 2,460 last year to 2,537 this year, again essentially the same with Styles vs Naito last year and Naito vs Nakajima this year, which even staying even is a positive sign given the main event. Nagoya was down from 6,500 last year for Tanahashi vs Yano to 5,500 this year for Shibata vs Naito. Given that Tanahashi is still the company's biggest star, but how much stronger the main event was this year, that's a disappointment, especially with Shibata and Naito being so important going forward. Yokohama was down from 4,868 last year to 4,065 this year. Last year was Tanahashi vs Shibata and this year was Goto vs Makabe, so that drop is understandable. The key to G1 is how Sumo Hall does. The last 2 nights were roughly the same as last year, but the first night was up. They sold 24,279 tickets sold for 3 shows this year and 23,395 last year. That has to be a major positive given the losses of Nakamura, Styles, and Ibushi, and how much interest was generated as the tournament went on because the advances were soft and the first week wasn't big. The A block final with Tanahashi vs Okada drew 6,598, up from 5,658 for the Tanahashi vs Styles match last year. It should have been up. Tanahashi vs Okada is New Japan's biggest program in modern times and will go down as one of the greatest rivalries in pro wrestling history. A part of me says 6,598 for those two in the A block G1 final is a disappointment, but it's not the 90s and it was the first of 3 nights. The Saturday night show always outdraws Friday. Saturday was almost identical, with 7,477 this year for Omega vs Naito as compared to 7,557 last year for Nakamura vs Okada. Given the comparisons, I consider that a huge success and a real feather in the cap of both Omega and Naito since Nakamura vs Okada was a dream match. The finals number isn't relevant for comparison. Both years sold out immediately when tickets were put on sale and nobody knew what the match would be. Last year did 10,180 and this year did 10,204. There are 11,066 seats in Sumo Hall at full capacity, so basically they had 24 less comps this year since both years they could have sold considerably more tickets. August 12, Tokyo Sumo Hall, a block finals 6,598 in attendance. 1. Mark and Jay Briscoe beat Captain New Japan and Yoshitatsu in 3:07. They really felt like they were rushing through the undercard given how long the main event was going. Mark pinned Captain with an elbow drop off the top rope. 1 star. 2. Tiger Mask and Jushin Liger and Yuji Nagata and Manabu Nakanishi beat Tomoaki Honma and Ryusuke Taguchi and Juice Robinson and David Finlay in 4:40. Another rushed match. Honma was working with a broken rib. Taguchi now is doing a lounge singer ring entrance. Taguchi and Tiger Mask opened strong. Nagata and Honma chopped hard to build for their match the next night. Steve Corino noted that Honma hit on his sister, Allison Danger, back in 2003, but that Honma has had 322 concussions since that time and so he doesn't remember. Liger pinned Finlay with an abdominal stretch into a lateral guillotine. 2 stars. 3. Katsuyori Shibata and Michael Elgin and Kushida and Satoshi Kojima beat Toru Yano and Katsuhiko Nakajima and Atsushi Kotoge and Yoshihashi in 8:28. There was great action with Shibata and Yoshihashi. Kojima chopped the hell out of Yoshihashi. Kojima pinned Kotoge after a Koji cutter and a lariat, winning clean since he had an Raw title match 2 nights later. 3 1/4 stars. 4. Kenny Omega and Tanjiro and Yujiro Takahashi and Hangman Page beat Tetsuya Naito and Bushi and Evil and Jay Lethal in 7:40. Lethal did 2 topes on Roa. The ring broke during this match. Lethal and Takahashi had some problems working together and Lethal dropped him on his face. Lots of near falls ending when Page pinned Bushi after the rites of passage, which is the Amori driver. The match was all action but it lacked heat. 2 1/4 stars. 5. Seiya Sanada beat Hiroyoshi Tenzan in 12:12. Crowd popped really big for Tenzan in his last ever G1 match. The deal was that he had been in more G1 tournaments and had more G1 matches than anyone, plus his 3 G1 wins were second only to Masahiro Chono. Sanada looked great here, like he's just missing one thing from being a major star, which is presence. Tenzan hit the Tenzan driver but had taken such a beating that he couldn't cover fast enough. Then he missed a moonsault, which is hopefully his last moonsault. The crowd was hot for him to win and pretty much recognized the moonsault spot as a hit and he wins or a miss and he loses. Tenzan threw headbutts to the shoulder and head. Some of the ones to the head were not smart the way they were done. Tenzan used a rabbit lariat and a regular lariat but Sanada kicked out. Tenzan used the Anaconda Vice and had a big near fall with the Anaconda Buster. He got out of the second Tenzan driver and used the Skull and Dragon Sleeper. Tenzan made the ropes the first time. Sanada did a sloppy moonsault for a near fall and then won by a submission with the Skull end. Sanada left the ring to Tenzan who bowed and cried and they made this a big deal about his final G1 match. 3 1/2 stars. 6. Tomohiro Ishii pinned Togi Makabe in 12:33. This was your typical crazy Big Show Ishii match. They came out fast trading elbows and chops and Ishii was warned about chopping to the throat. They had a ridiculous exchange early. Ishii was chopping hard to the throat, which isn't something they need to do, and Makabe did a sick lariat. Ishii was bleeding from the mouth. It was just like almost every match these two have. Ishii used a superplex, a German suplex and a dragon suplex but Makabe kept getting up. Makabe killed him with a clothesline. Makabe used a German suplex and a German superplex but missed the King Kong knee drop. Ishii's selling was just ridiculously good here. Then it was Headbutt City. These guys really need to learn to take better care of their brains because it's nothing to mess with. Most of the headbutts they do are safe and those clunking ram headbutts are a bad idea. Ishii finally won after a clothesline, a sliding lariat and a brainbuster. 4 1/4 stars. 7. Tama Tonga pinned Bad Luck Fale in 8:39. The story was that Fale could have won the whole tournament with a win, so they teased the idea that Tonga, his tag team partner, who was mathematically eliminated, would just let Fale win. These two are cousins in real life and had no idea about it. They never met until working here and somehow one talked about his aunt, and said her name and the other one recognized the name, and they found out they had the same aunt. Fale tore a sleeve off the ring announcer's jacket. Tonga was supposed to, but when he tried to tear it, the fabric held up. All the Bullet Club guys were at ringside and Tonga laid down as soon as the bell rang. The ref was furious. At the 2 count, Tonga went for a small package. At one point Fale gave Tonga a bad luck fall over the top rope but all the Bullet Club guys caught Tonga. Fale got near falls with a Samoan drop, a splash and a spear. He went for the bad luck fall, but Tonga escaped. Fale went for the grenade, but Tonga reversed into a DDT and then hit the gun stun for the pin. Part of the tournament was them trying to get the gun stun over as Tonga's new finisher. 2 1/4 stars. 8. Hiroki Goto pinned Nemichi Marufuji in 13:17. They pushed that Goto is the only person in history who has won the G1 tournament, 2008, who has never won the IWGP title. They pushed that he always loses the big one. Marufuji had a lot of the Noah guys in his corner. Super match back and forth. Marufuji went for the sliced bread, but Goto reversed into a choke. Marufuji flipped him over but Goto hung onto the choke, let it go and hit the GTR for the pin. 4 1/4 stars. 9. Hiroshi Tanahashi drew Kazuchika Okada in 30:04. This was their usual pull out all the stops match. The crowd was definitely behind Tanahashi, and at Sumo Hall, you never know. Tanahashi worked over the left leg. Tanahashi did 2 dragon screws around the guardrail on the right knee, so he took out both legs. Tanahashi used the high fly flow to the floor. There was a key spot as Tanahashi could have won by a count out, but he wanted revenge for his Tokyo Dome pinfall loss so he broke the count and threw Okada in. With a countout win, he'd be in the finals. Okada gave him a tombstone pile driver on the floor, but Okada then sold both of his knees. Okada got in at 17 but Tanahashi just beat the 20 count. They continued to trade so many big spots. Tanahashi missed a high fly flow and Okada did his dropkick to the back followed by a second dropkick. Tanahashi came back with the Texas Cloverleaf. Tanahashi did a high fly flow to the back, but tried a second one and Okada got his knees up. Okada went for a tombstone pile driver but Tanahashi reversed and did a tombstone. Tanahashi went up for the high fly flow but Okada got up and as Tanahashi came off, Okada dropkicked him. Okada did a German suplex on Tanahashi's bad shoulder and tried the Rainmaker, but Tanahashi slapped him. Okada hit the Rainmaker but Tanahashi escaped a second one. Okada couldn't beat Tanahashi with a Dragon suplex or a tombstone. He tried a Rainmaker but Tanahashi ducked, hit the sling blade, hit the crossbody off the top and then the high fly flow but the bell rang at the 2 count. 4 3/4 stars. August 13, Tokyo Sumo Hall B Block Finals, 7,477 in attendance. 1. Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Tiger Mask and Jushin Liger and Manabu Nakanishi beat Ryusuke Taguchi and Captain New Japan and David Finlay and Yoshitatsu in 6:23. Everyone came in and did their stuff. The crowd was most into Tenzan. Captain did some Mongolian chops to Tenzan. Nakanishi speared Finlay and Taguchi at the same time and Tenzan pinned Captain after a moonsault. Everyone shook hands and did a curtain call together after to a nice hand. 2.5 stars. 2. Tomohiro Ishii and Nemichi Marufuji beat Togi Makabe and Juice Robinson in 7:56. Makabe and Ishii continued off from the day before. They gave each other sick lariats. Marufuji did his usual hard chops. Robinson has improved greatly and is going to be a star in another year. He got a great near fall with a gut buster on Marufuji. Marufuji pinned Robinson with a jumping knee and sliced bread. Makabe went after Ishii after the match and they continued to brawl. 3.5 stars. 3. Jay Lethal and Seiya Sanada and Bushi beat Hiroshi Tanahashi and Satoshi Kojima and Kushida in 8:47. They had hot action with Kojima and Lethal to build up their match the next day. Lethal went for the lethal injection but Kojima turned it into a Koji cutter for a near fall. Bushi and Kushida were also focused on. Bushi went for a codebreaker, but Kushida blocked it and got him in the hoverboard lock. The finish saw Lethal hit Kushida with the lethal injection and then Bushi pinned Kushida after a codebreaker. This looked to set up Kushida vs Bushi for the junior title. 3.25 stars. 4. Bad Luck Fale and Tomatonga and Tangaroa and Yujiro Takahashi and Hangman Page beat Kazuchika Okada and Hiroki Goto and Mark and Jay Briscoe and Geto in 6:31. Jay did such a high dropkick on Page that he was almost over his head with it. Takahashi pinned Geto after a hot shot, a clothesline and DDT. The Briscoes put the boots to Takahashi after. Page and Takahashi came back and put the boots to the Briscoes with Takahashi laying out Jay with a DDT and Page laying out Mark with the rites of passage. 2 stars. 5. Tomoaki Honma pinned Yuji Nagata in 10:29. About what you'd expect as far as a hard-hitting match. Nagata did his slaps and hard kicks. Honma did all sorts of kokashis. Nagata did an exploder off the top rope for a near fall. They did an elbow and slap exchange. Honma used a kokashi spear and a pile driver for a near fall. Honma then got the upset pin with a diving headbutt. 3.5 stars. 6. Toru Yano pinned Yoshihashi in 3:31. Mostly comedy. Yano tore off the corner padding. The ref saw it and he threw it to the ref. The ref caught it so Yano tore another corner padding off and hit Yoshihashi with it. He won with a low blow and cradle. Dud. 7. Evil pinned Katsuyori Shibata in 9:42. Shibata went for the penalty kick early but missed. Evil put the chair around Shibata's head and hit the chair with a baseball bat swing with another chair. Evil worked over Shibata's wrist with chair shots. Shibata came back with a sick-low dropkick to the face. Shibata got a choke but Evil escaped going back after Shibata's bad wrist. Shibata threw down the ref at one point and Evil used a lariat and a power bomb, and finished him with the STO. After the match, Shibata went back after him and they traded chops so this could be a never title match. 3.75 stars. 8. Katsuhiko Nakajima pinned Michael Elgin in 16:50. Just a ridiculous match. The story was that Elgin had a pec and shoulder injury and Nakajima kept kicking the pec as hard as he could. The injury was legit, as he got it in a match early in the tournament, although it wasn't as bad as it was made out to be. Nakajima kicked the hell out of his arm and went for an armbar. Elgin used a German suplex into the turnbuckles as well as a press into a power slam. Elgin did a ridiculous left arm lariat, which was with the bad arm. Nakajima used a missile dropkick into a power bomb. Elgin missed a splash off the top. Elgin did a power one-arm superplex into a falcon arrow for a near fall. Elgin used a buckle bomb, and went for a spinning power bomb, but Nakajima countered with a Toyota roll. Nakajima continued with kicks to both arms and the head and got him up, and nearly lost him, with a brainbuster for the pin. This match was amazing. The crowd, Jushin Liger and the announcers all stood up and gave both men a standing ovation, and they raised each other's arms. 4.5 stars. 9. Kenny Omega pinned Tetsuya Naito in 28-12. So the strategy here was whether Naito should just stall for the draw and advance or take risks for the win. Steve Corino noted that because the finals were the next afternoon, the goal should be to win with the least punishment and the quickest, because Goto did very little in his match and was rested up. Both men started by spitting in each other's faces twice. Omega missed a plancha early and sold the left knee for the rest of the match. At one point Naito tried to whip Omega into the barricade and Omega just collapsed. Omega came back and powerbombed Naito through a table. Omega did a springboard flip and nailed Naito on the other side of the guardrail. They nearly killed Corino in the process and destroyed his headset. Omega did a fast dragon suplex on the apron and another in the ring. They went back and forth in one of the year's beat bouts. Naito did a Hurricane Rana off the top and Omega turned it into a sunset flip for a near fall. Naito did a German suplex, Omega flipped and landed on his feet and continued to sell the knee. Omega went for the one-winged angel but Naito turned it into an E-bar. Omega was selling like crazy and teasing tapping. The ref was about to call the match when Omega grabbed the ropes. Omega came back with a jumping knee, a German suplex, a Dr. Bomb and went for the one-winged angel, but Naito reversed into a Destino. Naito was too dazed to make the cover. Naito then did this incredible reverse Frankensteiner off the top rope for a near fall. Omega blocked the Destino and hit a sick tombstone pile driver and 2 jumping knees. He tried the one-winged angel but his knee gave out. He tried it again but couldn't get him up. Naito started slapping him in the face but Omega fired back. Naito went for a flying forearm but Omega hit the jumping knee. Omega then won with a German suplex, a jumping knee and the one-winged angel. Omega cut a promo after the match. Fans were chanting his name. He said that the reason he didn't leave like others was because Japan was his home. Everyone started cheering and then he turned on the fans for cheering for Naito over him. He said that he proved he was the MVP of this year's G1. 5 stars. August 14, Tokyo Sumo Hall, 10,204 sellout. 1. Jushin Liger and Tiger Mask beat David Finlay and Ryusuke Taguchi in 5:15. Taguchi and Finlay were doing a double-team hip attack spot. They did it to Liger. They tried on Tiger Mask, who moved, and nailed each other. The finish saw Liger use the Rito Romero special on Taguchi and Tiger Mask pinned Finlay after a double-arm superplex. 2 1/4 stars. 2. Geto and Jado beat Captain New Japan and Yoshitatsu in 5:39. This was Jado's return to the promotion. He had been working under a mask as Captain Noah, and booking Noah. He claimed that in his first match back, he sold out Sumo Hall. Of course the joke is that this show sold out. The minute tickets were put on sale, and Jado wasn't announced for the show until a few hours before. The crowd was up for seeing Jado. Captain and Yoshitatsu had problems. Yoshitatsu tried a pedigree and Steve Corino joked that he's really trying to make sure he doesn't go back. Jado made Captain submit to the crossface. Yoshitatsu, disgusted that Captain always loses every match, walked out on him. What happens to all the Hunter Club merchandise? Dud. 3. Tomohiro Ishii and Yoshihashi beat Togi Makabe and Tomoaki Honma in 9:10. More Ishii and Makabe attempts at manslaughter on each other. Honma used a power suplex on Ishii with a broken rib. I think he's more than used to blocking out pain by this point. Ishii did a knockout punch on Makabe. They were killing each other with shots and Makabe went down and sold it like a legit knockout. Yoshihashi pinned Honma after double knees, a super kick, a clothesline and a pump handle falcon arrow. This was pushed that Ishii and Yoshihashi just beat the former IWGP Tag Team Champions, so they pushed the idea they may face the winner of the tag title match later in the show. 3 1/4 stars. 4. Masaki Utemiya and Go Shiozaki and Maibach Taniguchi and Katsuhiko Nakajima beat Katsuyori Shibata and Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Yuji Nagata and Manabu Nakanishi in 10:54. This was Noah vs New Japan and it was crazy. Kitamiya worked much of the way. He resembles Masa Saito and he wears Masa Saito ring gear. The crowd just hated Shiozaki. The crowd was super into Shiozaki versus Shibata. Shibata was just ridiculous here as the home promotion tough guy shooter killing the outsiders. Shiozaki would hit Shibata as hard as he could and Shibata would just stand there. It got super heated and they did the double work like both weren't cooperating with each other. Nakajima then hit Shibata with a penalty kick, Shibata's finisher, and Shibata grabbed Nakajima and gave him this sick headbutt. Shibata was busted open and it was this dramatic deal like Steve Austin with Bret Hart. Shibata was bleeding all over the place. Nakajima was on his back acting knocked out cold from the shoot headbutt. It's like they were taking suspension of disbelief entirely too far. The crowd was just going nuts. Nagata started with running knees on Nakajima. Nakanishi picked up Nakajima in the torture rack. Kitamiya tried to break it up but Nakanishi threw Nakajima right onto him. Taniguchi hit Nakanishi with a splash off the top rope and Nakajima used a brainbuster on Nakanishi for the pin. It just got started. They had a big pull apart, mostly with Shibata and Nakajima. They were just hitting each other as hard as they could and the crowd was going nuts. Shibata then went after Shiozaki and started headbutting him. Shiozaki came back. Wrestlers were in the ring. Shibata showed all kinds of fire like it was the old days and it was Inoki or Fujinami. This match and post-match made him come across like a top main eventer for New Japan. The officials were yelling at Rocky Romero on commentary to help break it up. This was one of the most intense and realistic angles, really too realistic, to start a new feud. 4¼ stars. 5. Mark and Jay Briscoe retained the IWGP Tag Team titles over Yujiro Takahashi and Hangman Page in 1521. Takahashi came out dressed and dancing like the Godfather in WWF with 4 women and did an interview saying how this would be the real G1 climax. It was a huge mistake to not take an intermission after the previous match. There was no possible way to follow it. These guys did all they could. In the US this would have been a great match, but the crowd couldn't possibly get up after what they had just seen. Jay did a tope on both. Mark did a moonsault off the top rope on both. Page hit Jay with a belt shot and Jay was split open hard way in 2 different places. I mean, they were killing each other trying. Mark did the cactus jack elbow off the apron and cracked his own head on the floor and landing. Page did a springboard somersault clothesline off the guardrail onto Page. Page was busted open under the left eye. All of this and the crowd didn't get up. Jay did his great dropkick on Takahashi. Jay did a Death Valley bomb on the apron on Page. They were killing each other with elbows and Page did a sick DDT on Mark. Mark used a Saito suplex on Page and then Mark pinned Page after the Doomsday Device. Then they took the intermission 1 match too late. 3 stars. 6. Jay Lethal pinned Satoshi Kojima in 10:46 to retain the Raw title. Very good match. Kojima did the machine gun chops and elbow drop off the rope. They traded chops and elbows. Lethal did a savage elbow halfway across the ring. Kojima came back with a Koji cutter, and then used the Anaconda Vice, Tenzan's finisher, on Lethal. Lethal got up but Kojima nailed him with an elbow and a brainbuster for a near fall. Crowd got into this. Lethal did 2 topes on Kojima. He went for the lethal injection, but Kojima gave him a rabbit lariat. Lethal won using a low blow when the ref was distracted, following by the lethal injection. Tenzan was at ringside yelling at the ref for missing the low blow. The crowd was surprised Kojima didn't win. Lethal then cut a promo for his match against Adam Cole on the Raw PPV show. 3½ stars. 7. Tetsuya Naito and Evil and Bushi and Seiya Sanada beat Hiroshi Tanahashi and Michael Elgin and Kushida and Juice Robinson in 12:32. The crowd was super into Tanahashi vs Naito. Good match. Sanada did a double leapfrog and dropkick spot on Tanahashi. Bushi did a slingshot on Tanahashi into a dropkick by Naito. Elgin tagged in and powerslammed Naito and Evil at the same time. He then did a double fall away slam on Sanada and Bushi and got a near fall with a Falcon Arrow on Naito. The finish saw Sanada use the skull end on Tanahashi, Bushi did a tope on Kushida, Evil and Naito did a double press slam on Elgin and then Evil pinned Robinson after an STO. 3¼ stars. 8. Kazuchika Okada and Nemichi Marufuji and Toru Yano beat Bad Luck Fale and Tama Tonga and Tangaroa in 9:10. Marufuji and Tonga did some real cool spots since both are so ridiculously fast in the ring. Fale and Tonga crotched Yano on the post. Okada did a dropkick and elbow off the top on Roa. Fale went to hit Okada with a grenade, but in mid-air, Okada dropkicked Fale and then clotheslined him over the top rope. Okada then hit the Rainmaker for the pin on Roa. 3 stars. After the match, Okada challenged Fale and noted Fale beat him in the tournament, so he offered him an IWGP title match. People weren't that hot on it, especially because they wanted Okada vs Marufuji. That was set up as everyone just figured it was Fale getting the shot, when Okada then turned to Marufuji and asked him if he wanted a shot at the greatest championship in the world. Marufuji asked the fans if they wanted to see the match, and they popped pretty big. Marufuji offered Okada his hand, and Okada just blew him off. Before the main event started, Masahiro Chono, Mr. August and the King of the G1 came out to announce the main event. 9. Kenny Omega pinned Hiroki Goto in 26:49 to win the G1 tournament. This was wild because the crowd shifted back and forth several times during the match. Omega teased a big dive, but Goto jumped in and kicked Omega in the knee. He worked on the knee with a figure 4. Omega did a moonsault off the guardrail, but then started selling the bad knee. Omega picked Goto up and told everyone at ringside to move, teasing powerbombing him into the crowd, but then turned around and hit the powerbomb on the apron. They teased a countout, but Goto got back in. Omega did his forward fireman's carry and middle rope moonsault for a near fall. He did a fast dragon suplex for a near fall. The fans started chanting the theme from the Terminator, and Omega did a running flip dive. He started selling like he destroyed his own knee with that one. Omega came back and did a missile dropkick to Goto's back and kept selling the knee. Goto got a near fall with the Ushigoroshi. Goto clotheslined Omega, who took a spin bump on his head on the apron. They were both on the top rope trading elbows from the superplex position. Goto then gave him an Ushigoroshi off the middle rope for a near fall. Goto put on the choke. Omega also used a choke twice. Goto hit a German suplex, but Omega landed on his feet and hit the jumping knee. Omega then used the Ushigoroshi, Goto's big move, but on his own bad knee. Omega tried the one-winged angel, but Goto got behind him and got a choke. Omega smashed him backwards twice into the turnbuckles to break it. Goto put it on again. Omega was caught in the choke but climbed to the top rope while Goto was piggybacking him holding the choke. Omega then fell backwards off the top rope to break it. That was one of those spots everyone will remember. They teased a double knockout finish, but both barely beat the 10 count. Then Omega did the jumping knee and the Ibushi last ride powerbomb for a near fall. At this point the crowd was totally behind Omega. He missed the Phoenix Splash. Goto used a hard kick. Goto got a near fall with a spinning slam. Omega blocked the GTR twice. Omega used his own fast dragon suplex for a near fall. Goto blocked a knee and came back with 3 hard knees, clotheslined the hell out of Omega and hit the Shoten Kai, but Omega kicked out. Omega then used the Bloody Sunday DDT for a near fall, a Styles Clash for a near fall, before finally getting the pin with the one-winged angel. The story was that Omega battled back from 2 bad knees, and even though Goto kicked out of every finisher of the various Bullet Club leaders, it was Omega's finisher that beat him. Omega then refused to wave the G1 flag at the end of the tournament, as the winner always does during the celebration, and instead waved the Bullet Club flag. 4 3/4 stars. At the start of a week of tapings which included Impact episodes through the end of September, the company announced that Billy Corgan had replaced Dixie Carter as the president of the company, while Carter will become chairman and chief strategy officer for the company. Since tapings continued all week, it was largely unclear what this means. Both Corgan and Earlux have been putting money into the company in recent months to fund the television tapings and pay the salaries of the talent and office staff in exchange for ownership points. Once again, there were financial issues going into the tapings that started on August 11, as talent had not gotten paid money they were due on July 30. Whatever deal that led to the company having more money seemed to take place at the same time of the announcement, and talent was then paid in full. Corgan, who started with the company about 16 months ago, put money in to fund a recent television taping that nearly had to be cancelled at the last minute. Corgan has also been an authority figure on television with Carter. Both continue to appear on already taped future episodes of the show in similar roles. The key in a sale of the company has always been about allowing Carter to save face, and this gives her a title and allows for that. Corgan, from the start, has been part of the company's creative process with David Lagana, John Gaburek, and Matt Conway. At this point, the problem is not creative. The problem is making the company work, which means revenue streams. The company's main revenue streams are its television deals in the UK and India. But the merging of 2 television stations in India threatens that deal, and TNA has still not announced a tour for India that is mandated in its television contract. Corgan gave a speech to talent at the tapings described as a rah-rah speech that seemed to get over. It wasn't much different from the occasional speeches Carter had done over the years, but the difference is that with a few exceptions, most of TNA's talent is new and hasn't been through all that. The company's parent company is now called Impact Ventures. The first thing the company did under Corgan was make a number of changes in the championship picture, leading to Bound for Glory, a PPV on October 2nd from Orlando. On the 8/11 Impact show, Bobby Lashley, who held both the TNA and X Division titles, beat James Storm, the King of the Mountain champion, in a match billed to unify the titles. However, they had no way out of that storyline, and this coming week Lashley tries to turn the three belts into a triple crown of sorts, only for Corgan to say he couldn't do it. So Lashley vacated the X and King of the Mountain titles that he had just won, retaining only the TNA title. The X title ended up being decided in a combination Gauntlet and Ultimate X match with all of the company's smaller wrestlers, won by DJZ on August 13. The King of the Mountain title was dropped, and in its place will be the new Grand Championship. That title will be presented differently than anything previously. All matches will be 3 rounds, similar to boxing and MMA, with judges who score the rounds and render a decision if the match goes the distance. Almost everyone doesn't remember, but TNA actually did use judging for a time when they were on Fox Sports Net, and it didn't work. Until we see how this works, it's hard to prejudge it, but historically, judges' decisions haven't worked in pro wrestling dating back more than 100 years, which is why, whether it be Japan, Mexico, Europe or the US, all of which tried it at one point or another, it didn't work anywhere. The round system was popular in Europe into the 80s but was dropped decades ago in the US in the 70s. In Los Angeles, the television matches were fought with rounds, which actually made sense because it creates natural breaks for commercials. In those days, modeled after boxing, the rounds were 3 minutes in length. Paul Alperstein's AWF, which ran in the late 80s, was the last major attempt to use rounds in the US, and it wasn't successful. Americans who had gone to Europe and done the rounds matches had mixed feelings on it. Some liked it because of the challenge and differences, but the constant complaint in rounds is that when you get some momentum and heat going, the round ends, and then you have to start from a 1-minute break to try and get the momentum back. The only thing we know is that they will use open scoring, which is that at the end of the round, the winner of the round is announced. In just about every case, if the match went into the third round, the wrestlers would split rounds going into the third. There were a few matches that went to the cards, and even a split decision where Drew Galloway beat Eddie Edwards in a tournament semifinal. That title comes down to Galloway versus Aaron Rex, the former Damien Sandow, scheduled for Bound for Glory on October 2nd. The Broken Matt storyline, which resulted in the company's best rating in recent months on Pop TV, is the backdrop for the tag team titles. The Hardys are back together, both broken as is Reby Hardy, feuding with Decay. The Knockouts title has been booked like a Vince Russo-type championship. It is largely copying failed ideas, but it's also a meaningless title, so it's not like you damage something when it means nothing to begin with. Coming into the week, the title was held by Sienna, Allison Kay. She lost it in a multiple-person match to Allie, Laura Dennis, who had been on some PPVs in the past under her real name, but now is presented as a non-wrestler who is Maria Kanellis' secretary. The idea is she fluked into the win. Then Kanellis ordered her to lay down for her and she did, with the idea of turning Allie babyface as the person Maria constantly bullies. So Maria will be champion and working against Kim and Jade. Brandon Howard wrote a pair of articles on WWE North American house shows and attendance, which pretty much should end debates on a number of subjects related to what drawing power is in the company in the current era. The article, updated with researches of the house shows on July 23, among other things, compared shows headlined by Dean Ambrose with those headlined by Roman Reigns, as well as all of the company's major headliners. Shows featuring both were not figured in. The shows in which neither was the key headliner were also not figured in, nor were shows that included John Cena, Brock Lesnar or the rare shows Triple H worked. Even though Reigns was pushed harder until he failed the drug test and then Ambrose was given the title, so far in 2016, Ambrose's average of 4,425 per show beats the 3,830 average of Reigns. Going further, that is somewhat misleading. For one thing, Ambrose worked more major markets, and also had the advantage when it came to advanced sales as he more than Reigns benefited from headlining shows where Cena was advertised when tickets were first put on sale, and the vast majority of ticket sales come right away. That would be a surprise, but Reigns was being advertised for smaller markets at certain times because the headliner between Cena and Reigns for many shows were put together before Cena went in for rotator cuff surgery. If you compare Reigns' headlined shows to what the average attendance at the specific arenas he headlined over the past 5 years, Reigns does 8% below average. Ambrose does 6% below average, and quite frankly, that minor difference could be as much statistical margin of error as anything. It does say that if anything, Ambrose is a bigger main event draw than Reigns even with a lesser push, or that the two are even, despite Reigns getting a far more significant push. The best headliners as far as compared to the average within the market this year, besides Cena, have been Seth Rollins, who doesn't make the difference Cena does, but makes far more of a difference than anyone else, and AJ Styles, who makes a more minor positive difference, as well as Bray Wyatt, who does better on top than either Reigns or Ambrose. If you look at market by market over the last 5 years, on average a show headlined by Reigns will draw 29% less in that same arena than a show headlined by Cena. Ambrose will draw 21% less in the same city than a show headlined by Cena. Rollins is 8% down, Styles is 17% down and Wyatt is 17% down, while Rusev is actually 16% down. Others who are in the same league as Reigns and Ambrose when on top include Chris Jericho, Sheamus, Kevin Owens, Kane, and Sami Zayn. When it comes to Cena, these are not statistical margins for error nor are those differences insignificant at all. That's not even including the huge differences in merchandise sales. If someone other than Ambrose or Reigns, or Cena or Lesnar or Triple H, headlines a show, generally speaking, they will do 16% below what Cena does in the same city. In other words, Reigns and Ambrose were both actually negatives as draws in main events even compared to the non-Cena average, with Reigns worse than Ambrose. But the key point of these numbers even more than the fact Reigns is not a draw no matter how much he's pushed, how big the pops he may or may not get are, and how much Vince McMahon thinks he should be a draw and built so much around him. The real point is these numbers show conclusively that the idea that it's the brand that draws in the main draw doesn't make a difference. In actuality, those are very significant differences, and really points to the value of Cena as a house show draw and that there is even a slight difference between the value of others, although not nearly as much. In fact, on shows Cena was on this year, the house shows in general did the same as they would have done in other years, but non-Cena shows were down significantly. As far as headliners go, up until that point, those who headlined at least 10 house shows this year were Ambrose, 43, Reigns, 33, Owens, 22, Styles, 18, Wyatt, 18, Seth Rollins, 16, Sheamus, 16, Kane, 13, Rusev, 11. SmackDown on August 16 increased very little even with a huge drop from the Olympics, but it's still a good sign that the numbers won't fall to the level of the prior numbers, the goal when splitting brands. SmackDown did a 1.72 rating and 2,471,000 viewers, 1.56 viewers per home, up very slightly from the week before. But perhaps the rise should have been even more significant, given the Olympics against SmackDown on August 9 did 33,440,000 viewers and on August 16 the Olympics did 24,135,000 viewers. The show will rise next week and that should indicate the real level the show should be doing going forward. SmackDown was 5th for the night on cable. The show did a 0.71 in 12-17, down 5.3%, 0.73 in 18-34, up 19.7%, 0.91 in 35-49, up 12.3%, and 0.98 in 50+, down 1.0%. Raw on August 15 took another hit from the Olympics, but this time even though the number was very slightly up from last week, it's probably worse given the Olympic number was so far down. Raw did a 2.11 rating and 2,909,000 viewers, 1.50 viewers per home, a 3% ratings increase but almost identical to the 2,904,000 viewers the week before due to lower viewers per home. It was the second lowest number of viewers for a non-holiday show since 1997. However, the Olympics dropped from 28,861,000 viewers to 24,267,000 head-to-head, and instead of Raw being first on cable for the night, it was fourth. As a comparison with the second week of the Olympics in 2012, Raw did a 3.09 rating and 4.37 million viewers, down 33.4%, while the Olympics went from 26,570,000 viewers to 24,267,000 viewers, down 8.7%. The show started unusually low with 2,879,000 viewers in the first hour, picked up to 3,083,000 viewers in the second hour, and fell to 2,784,000 viewers in the third hour. As far as the demo comparisons, the show did a 0.75 in 12 to 17, down 12.8%, 0.95 in 18 to 34, up 13.1%, 1.07 in 35 to 49, down 4.5%, and 1.10 in 50 plus, down 5.2%. The audience was 66.3% male in the 18 to 49 demo and 70.1% male in the 12 to 17 demo, so once again the big hit from the normal audience was among women. The first week of the 4-week CM Punk show on FS1 building to his fight that aired on August 15 did only 108,000 viewers on FS1. It was actually down from its lead-in of 141,000 viewers for an hour of taped old fights. TNA Impact on August 11 did 315,000 viewers for the almost live show featuring Bobby Lashley vs. James Storm with all three singles titles at stake. The number was almost identical to the 317,000 the week before. It probably would have been considerably higher, but it went head-to-head with the Olympics, which drew 31.35 million viewers. TNA's average viewer was 54 and the audience was 53% male in the 18 to 49 demo. This is the second issue of the current set. If you've got A1 on your address label, your subscription will expire with next week's double issue. Renewal rates for the printed Observer in the United States are $12 for 4 issues, which includes $4 for postage and handling, $22 for 8, $31 for 12, $40 for 16, $60 for 24, $80 for 32, $100 for 40, $130 for 52 up through $160 for 64 issues. For Canada and Mexico, the rates are $13.50 for 4 issues, which includes $6 for postage and handling, $24 for 8, $34 for 12, $44 for 16, $66 or 24, $88 for 32, $110 for 40 issues, $143 for 52 and $176 for 64. For Europe, you can get the fastest delivery and best rates by sending to Moonsalt, P.O. Box 3075, Barnet, Hart CN49YR, England, or by sending email orders to moonsalt@meatyplucent.com. Rates are £9 per set of 4 issues. UK readers ordering at least 6 sets can get them for £8.50 per set. For the rest of the world, the rates are $15.50 for 4 issues, which includes $9 for postage and handling, $30 for 8, $43 for 12, $56 for 16, $70 for 20, $84 for 24, $98 for 28, $140 for 40 issues and $182 for 52 issues. You can also get the Observer on the web at www.wrestlingobserver.com for $10.99 per month for a premium membership that includes daily audio updates, Figure 4 weekly, special articles and a message board. If you are a premium member and still want hard copies of the Observer, you can get them for $8 per set in the US, $9 per set in Canada and $11.50 per set for the rest of the world. All subscription renewals should be sent to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, P.O. Box 1228, Campbell, California 950091228. You can also renew via Visa or MasterCard by sending your name, address, phone number, Visa or MasterCard number, and include a 3 or 4-digit security code on the card, an expiration date to dave@wrestlingobserver.com or by fax to 408-244-3402. You can also renew at www.paypal.com using dave@wrestlingobserver.com as the pay-to address. For all credit card or PayPal orders, please add a $1 processing fee. If there are any subscription problems, you can contact us and we will attempt to rectify them immediately, but please include with your name a full address as well a phone number you can be contacted at. All letters to the editor, reports from live shows and any other correspondence pertaining to this publication should also be sent to the above address. We also have copies of our latest book, Tributes to, a 293-page hardcover full-color book which features biographies right out of the pages of The Observer. Those featured are Wahoo McDaniel, Luthez Mississippi Elizabeth, Freddie Blassie, Road Warrior Hawk, Andre the Giant, Kurt Hennig, Johnny Valentine, Davey Boy Smith, Terry Gordy, Owen Hart, Stu Hart, Gorilla Monsoon, The Sheik, and Tim Woods. The book is available for $12.95 plus $3.50 for postage and handling in the U.S., $20 for postage and handling in Canada and $25 for postage and handling for the rest of the world. This publication is copyright material and no portion of The Observer may be reprinted without the expressed consent of publisher/writer Dave Meltzer or Chief Legal Counsel and Deputy Managing Editor Scott Williams. The Observer is also produced by John F. Rod. Fax messages can be sent to The Observer 24 hours a day at 408-244-3402. Phone messages can be left 24 hours a day at 408-244-2455. Emails can be sent to dave@wrestlingobserver.com. Results: 8:11 Melbourne, Australia, WWE, 10,500 sellout, Apollo Crews b Sheamus, Braun Strowman b Jey Uso, Tag Titles, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods b Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, U.S. Title, Rusev b Titus O'Neil, Roman Reigns and Finn Balor b Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho, Women's Title, Sasha Banks b Charlotte, Sami Zayn b Kevin Owens, John Cena b AJ Styles. 8:11 Tampa, WWE NXT, 400, Kenneth Crawford b Steve Cutler, Nico Bogojevic and Tucker Knight b Beautiful Blonde Blake and Adrian Ha'ud, Wani Lorcan b Riddick Moss, Andrade Cien Almas b Buddy Murphy, Austin Aries b Patrick Clark, Ember Moon b Mandy Rose, Samoa Joe and Authors of Pain b Shinsuke Nakamura and No Way Jose and Tino Sabatelli. 8:11 Orlando, TN Impact TV tapings, DJ Z1 4-way over Rockstar Spud, Mandrews, and Braxton Sutter, Moose and Mike Bennett b Ethan Carter III and Eddie Edwards, No DQ, Gail Kim b Marty Bell, Matt and Jeff Hardy b Basil Baraka and Baron Dax, TNA and X title vs King of the Mountain title, Bobby Lashley b James Storm, Eli Drake b Mahabali Shera, Moose b Eddie Edwards, Basil Baraka and Baron Dax b Robbie E and Jesse Goddard, Ethan Carter III b Trevor Lee, Drew Galloway b Andrew Everett. 8:11 Mexico City Arena Mexico, Elite Lucha Libre, Astral and Electrico b Pequeño Olímpico and Pierre Otito, Cuatrero and Fresero Jr. and Sanson b Bandito and Emperador Azteca and Ultimo Ninja, Flamita and Golden Magic b Argos and Rey Cometa, Volador Jr. b Atlantis, Mephisto and Hefesto and Charlie Rockstar b Caristico and Super Crazy and Maximo Sexy, Ultimo Guerrero b Rush. 8/12 Adelaide, Australia, WWE, 8,000, Apollo Crews b Sheamus, Braun Strowman b Jey Uso, Tag Titles, Kofi Kingston and Big E b Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, U.S. Title, Rusev b Titus O'Neil, Roman Reigns and Finn Balor b Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho, Women's Title, Sasha Banks b Charlotte, John Cena b AJ Styles. 8/12 Venice, Florida, WWE NXT, 325 sellout, Jeet Rama b Noah Pates, Nico Bogojevic and Tucker Knight b Chris Atkins and Billy Kay b Daria Baronato, Buddy Murphy b Adrian Ha'ud, Tino Sabatelli b Angelo Dawkins, No Way Jose b Patrick Clark, non-title, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder b Nico Bogojevic and Tucker Knight, Women's Title, Asuka b Ember Moon. 8/12 Orlando, TN Impact TV tapings, Eli Drake b Braxton Sutter, Gail Kim NC Jade, ladder match, Matt and Jeff Hardy won over Robbie E and Jesse Goddard, Baron Dax and Basil Baraka and Andrew Everett and Trevor Lee, 4-way no DQ match for Knockouts title, Ali won over Sienna, Jade, Marty Bell, and Madison Rain, Mike Bennett won Battle Royal, Abyss b Jeff Hardy, our own Rex referee, Ethan Carter III b Drew Galloway, Moose b DJZ, Mahabali Shera b Rockstar Spud, Bobby Lashley b Eddie Edwards. 8/12 London, Revolution Pro, 1,200 sellout, Jay White b Josh Bodum, Shaw Samuels b Big Damo, Chris Hero b Marty Skrull, Ricochet b Pete Dunne, Zack Sabre Jr. b Jeff Cobb, Vader b Will Ospreay. 8/12 Mexico City Arena Mexico, CMLL, Damas 316 and Mercurio b Shockercito and Stukita, Disturbio and Scandalo and Virus b Hombre Bala Jr. and Pegaso and Soberano Jr., Dragon Rojo Jr. and Pulvora and Rey Escorpion b Angel de Oro and Guerrero Maya Jr. and Titan, Rey Bucanero b Super Crazy DQ, Atlantis and Stuka Jr. and Valiente b Cavernario and Gran Guerrero and Mr. Niebla, Mystico and Dragon Lee and Volador Jr. b Ultimo Guerrero and La Mascara and Euphoria. 8/13 Sydney, Australia, WWE, 14,000, Apollo Crews b Sheamus, Braun Strowman b Jey Uso, Tag Titles, Kofi Kingston and Big E b Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, Finn Balor b Chris Jericho, U.S. Title, Rusev b Titus O'Neil, John Cena b AJ Styles, Women's Title, Sasha Banks b Charlotte, Sami Zayn b Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns b Seth Rollins. 813 Hidalgo, Texas, WWE, 5000, Enzo Amore and Big Cass B. Dudleys, Zack Ryder B. Heath Slater, Neville B. Bo Dallas, Sin Cara and Cesaro and R-Truth and Goldust B. Primo and Epico and Tyler Breeze and Fandango, Randy Orton B. Bray Wyatt, Becky Lynch and Naomi B. Natalya and Summer Rae, Baron Corbin B. Jack Swagger, IC title, Kane B. The Miz DQ, 3-way for WWE title, Dean Ambrose won over Alberto Del Rio and Dolph Ziggler. 813 Fort Pierce, Florida, WWE NXT, 400, Adrian Howard B. Tino Sabatelli, Ember Moon and Liv Morgan and Danielle Camella B. Nicole Glenn Cross and Aaliyah and Mandy Rose, Angelo Dawkins B. Dan Mata, Sawyer Fulton and Alexander Wolf B. Patrick Clark and Kenneth Crawford, Hideo Itami B. Noah Pates, Beautiful Blonde Blake B. Hugo Knox, Shinsuke Nakamura and Daria Baronato B. Riddick Moss and Billy Kay, NXT title, Samoa Joe B. No Way Jose. 814 Laredo, Texas, WWE, 4500, Enzo Amore and Big Cass B. Dudleys Neville B. Bo Dallas, Zack Ryder B. Heath Slater, Cesaro and Sin Cara and R-Truth and Goldust B. Tyler Breeze and Fandango and Primo and Epico, Randy Orton B. Bray Wyatt, Becky Lynch and Naomi B. Natalya and Summer Rae, Baron Corbin B. Jack Swagger, IC title, Kane B. The Miz DQ, 3-way for WWE title, Dean Ambrose won over Dolph Ziggler and Alberto Del Rio. 814 Orlando, TNA Impact TV tapings, Robbie E. B. Andrew Everett, Matt Hardy B. Crazy Steve, Aaron Rex B. Trevor Lee, 9 title, Bobby Lashley B. Grotto, Eddie Edwards B. Mahabali Shera, Gail Kim 1 gauntlet match, Basil Baraka B. Marsh Rocket, Eddie Edwards B. Baron Dax, Mike Bennett B. Braxton Sutter, Grotto and Jade B. Eli Drake and Sienna. 815 Corpus Christi, Texas, WWE Raw/Superstars TV tapings, 6000, Sin Cara B. Curtis Axel, Jack Swagger B. Bo Dallas, Sami Zayn B. Sheamus, 9 title, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods B. Dudleys, Nia Jax B. Rachel Levy, Big Cass B. Kevin Owens DQ, Primo and Epico B. Darren Young and Titus O'Neil, Neville B. Jinder Mahal, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson B. R-Truth and Goldust, Charlotte B. Alicia Fox, non-title, Roman Reigns B. Rusev, John Cena and Dean Ambrose B. Seth Rollins and Chris Jericho. 816 Austin TX, WWE SmackDown/Main Event TV tapings, 4000, Kane B. Baron Corbin B. Rhino, Usos and Jason Jordan and Chad Gable and Mojo Rawley and Zack Ryder B. Aiden English and Simon Gotch and The Ascension and Tyler Breeze and Fandango, Heath Slater B. Randy Orton DQ, non-title, Dean Ambrose B. Eric Rowan, Carmella and Becky Lynch B. Natalya and Alexa Bliss, John Cena B. Alberto Del Rio, Dolph Ziggler B. The Miz, Roman Reigns b. Seth Rollins. 816 Orlando, TNA TV tapings, Tyrus b. Trevor Lee, Drew Galloway b. Eddie Edwards, Aaron Rex b. Eli Drake, X-Title, DJZ b. Trevor Lee, Maria Kanellis b. Luscious Latasha, Ethan Carter III and Moose b. Mike Bennett and Bobby Lashley, Jesse Goddard b. Marsh Rocket, Gail Kim b. Laurel Vanis, Bobby Lashley b. Bram, Moose b. Eli Drake, Ethan Carter III b. Matt Hardy. 816 Mexico City Arena, Mexico, CMLL, Leono and Sensei B. Espanto Jr. and Inquisidor, Oro Jr. and Soberano and Starman B. Cuatrero and Escandalo and Sanson, Misterioso Jr. and Hechicero and Sagrado B. Fuego and Guerrero Maya Jr. and Rey Cometa, Stuka Jr. B. Luciferno, El Terrible and Mr. Niebla and Shocker B. Angel de Oro and Johnny Idol and Titan, Euphoria and Niebla Roja and Ultimo Guerrero B. Mascara Dorada and Russian Volador Jr. CMLL. The biggest news is that after not drawing on Thursday, Elite is moving back to Sundays at Arena Mexico, in place of what is CMLL's number 2 weekly show in the building. This starts on August 21st. The 8/12th show at Arena Mexico was headlined by Dragon Lee and Mystico and Volador Jr. beating Euphoria and Ultimo Guerrero and La Mascara when Lee pinned Mascara clean in their build for their Mask vs. Mask match on September 2nd. The match was really short, barely 7 minutes of action for 3 falls. Super Crazy worked as the heel in his match with Rey Bucanero, giving him a low blow and losing via DQ to build their hair versus hair match on the same show. The other top match saw Atlantis and Stuka Jr. and Valiente beat Cavernario and Gran Guerrero and Mr. Niebla. Said to be a good show but not a lot of news for the show. For 8/19 they've got Lee and Mystico and Valiente versus Hefesto and Mascara and Mephisto plus Atlantis and Marco Corleone and Maximo Sexy versus Pierre Roth and Russian Rey Escorpion. CMLL is also planning a major show on September 16, 2 weeks after the anniversary show, For Mexican Independence Day. CMLL is clearly aware that this year's anniversary show with Dragon Lee vs La Mascara on top doesn't have the drawing power as the past 3 years. Ringside tickets in 2013 were $164, and the past 2 years were $204, but this year they are cut to $109. The final Thursday Elite show on August 11 saw Volador Jr. beat Atlantis and Ultimo Guerrero beat Rush, using a low blow to set up the pin, in the league matches. Mephisto and Hefesto and Charlie Rockstar beat Caristico and Super Crazy and Maximo Sexy when Mephisto used Caristico's mask to pin him. AAA. Nothing has been announced regarding how Triple Mania will be broadcast. The PPV deal from last year fell apart. They've been doing big shows on IP, so that's most likely, and they often don't make those announcements until the last minute. They've announced 11 of the 12 participants in the Triple Mania Cup match on the show as La Parka, Australian Suicide, El Ejido, Hernandez, El Hijo del Pirata Morgan, Superfly, Taurus, Zorro, Black Mamba, and Pimpinela Escarlata. There is one spot remaining. Dragon Gate. Peter Casa, who works here as well as for Evolve, is one of those super athletic guys to watch out for. He's seriously amazing in that Ricochet and Will Ospreay way, and has a great physique, although not tall. He's like a Neville type, but if you can believe this, he's even more athletic. He's really green, and when he started in Evolve, he didn't do that great at first and then got hurt, so right now he doesn't have the inside buzz, but he's a guy who may be talked about a lot in a year or two. In the tag team tournament, on August 11 in Himeji, Tozawa and Shimizu beat Takagi and Kong in 16:02 when Shimizu pinned Kong with a shot put slam. Shima and Gamma also got a win via forfeit since Fuda Nakamura, who is partners with Masaaki Mochizuki, is still out of action due to a concussion. On August 14 in Kobe before a sellout of 1,000 fans, DOI and Yasuhi beat Santa Maria and Lindemann in 15:45 when DOI beat Lindemann with a half crab. Dragon Kid and Ida beat Tozawa and Shimizu in 18:04 when Ida beat Shimizu and Yamato, and Hulk went to a 2000 hours draw with Takagi and Kong. A newcomer named Hayu Watanabe made his debut this past week. He's 19 years old. There is another newcomer, not related, named Shun Watanabe. All Japan. Yohei Nakajima won the TV title beating Takeshi Minamino on the 8/11 show in Nagano. New Japan. Ryback is certainly teasing coming to New Japan as he has released a t-shirt with Japanese lettering and the name The Big Gaijin, as Gaijin is the term used for foreigner in Japan. Everyone uses it even though it's really considered a racist term outside of wrestling. Other Japan notes. We'll have more on the Olympics next week, but Kaori Icho scored a last-second takedown to beat Russia's Valeria Kobleva in the 127-pound weight class final to capture her 4th gold medal, making her the first wrestler in Olympic history to reach that mark. Saori Yoshida goes for 4 later this week. 7 wrestlers in history had won 3 gold medals coming into the Olympics. Earlier, Mijaín Lopez of Cuba had captured his 3rd gold medal in 286 pounds in Greco-Roman wrestling, beating Reza Kayalp of Turkey 6-0. The two had battled over the World Championship in 2014 and 2015, with Lopez winning in 2014 and Kayalp taking it in 2015. Lopez is only the 2nd person to win 3 super heavyweight gold medals in the Olympics, joining Alexander Karelin. Daiki Inaba, a replacement for the injured Manabu Soya, captured the Wrestle 1 title on August 11 in Yokohama, beating Kai in 21:59 using the Octopus submission on the promotion's biggest show of the year before 1,902 fans. The show also featured an All Japan vs Wrestle 1 match where Jun Akiyama captained one team against a team headed by Keiji Muto. The All Japan team of Akiyama and Naoya Nomura and Yuma Aoyagi beat Muto and Koji Doi and Kumagoro in 21:51 when Akiyama pinned Doi. Kota Ibushi also worked the show, beating Jiro Kuroshio. Yusuke Kodama upset Kotaro Suzuki to win the Wrestle 1 Cruiserweight title. Akiyama, Nomura and Aoyagi had to rush from Nagano, where they worked the opening match that day, to Yokohama, which is about 2.5 hours on the bullet train. Here and there. The death of John Reschner, Balls Mahoney, on April 12 was officially ruled as being from hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, in essence, a heart attack. Reschner, who was 44 at the time of his death, was a high school wrestling star who did local indies with close friend Chris Candido while both were teenagers. Reschner's first indie match was at the age of 15 and did a gimmick as Abuda Singh on New Jersey Indies before Candido got him his first break in 1993 as Boo Bradley for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which led to his next run as Balls Mahoney in ECW starting in 1997. Univision put in a bid of $135 million to purchase Gawker in bankruptcy court, which was by far the high bid. The Ospreay vs. Vader match built up when Vader ripped on the Ospreay vs. Ricochet match from Tokyo, saying it wasn't wrestling, headlined the 8/12 Revolution Pro show at York Hall in London. The show drew a sellout of 1,200 fans and there was super heat in the crowd. In fact, it was said to be the most heated match in the history of the promotion, although that crowd was pretty rapid for several of the matches. Vader, at 61, was very limited and it was like watching a Sheik match in the sense it was smoke and mirrors, short, but super heated. He attacked Ospreay before the match and took out the ref. The idea they were trying to portray was that Vader wasn't going along with plans and it was a shoot, and at least before this crowd, the place was nuclear. Vader chokeslammed Ospreay through the announcer's table. Security came out with the idea Vader was out of control and Ospreay sold it for a long time. Ospreay did a dive from the ramp onto Vader and the security team. The match started, with Vader on top and then Ospreay made a comeback, was on the top rope and seemed about to win, when Pete Dunne came out and attacked Ospreay, and Dunne and Vader shook hands. Ricochet then came out and took out Dunne and he and Ospreay double-teamed Vader. Still, Vader kicked out of a shooting star press first by Ricochet and then by Ospreay. Dunne attacked the ref. Ospreay went after Dunne. Vader got the pin after 2 choke slams in 6:42. The crowd was furious at the finish with "This is bullshit" chants. Ospreay cut a promo, using the term pipe bomb, sitting in the ring like Punk, acting mad about losing and giving the impression, which wasn't untrue, that Vader refused to do the job as he talked about egos in wrestling. It was a weird spectacle. From what we understand, Ospreay was really strong about the idea, seeing all the reaction that Vader got for knocking his match with Ricochet and thinking it made sense as a match. He went to Revolution Pro and asked for it, and they decided to do it with reservations, figuring if they didn't, somebody else would and do it badly. Promoter Andy Quildan then contacted Vader. Vader claimed his comments were a work to begin with, although people are skeptical of that, believing he just changed his story to get heat off him. But after the big reaction, based on how I read things, Vader did start getting nicer, but from there it seemed there was working involved. It's pretty clear it turned into an angle as opposed to started as one, and then ended as a very heated to the crowd but messy for the promotion situation. The match got the promotion more talk than any match in its history, but by the time the match came, a lot of the reaction had died down. But tickets sold quickly at first. By the day of the show, the reaction was really strong again with the idea it's actually happening. The original idea for the match was Ospreay winning. At first Vader agreed, although he had his stipulations so didn't want it clean. About a week before the show, he changed his mind and said he wanted to win strong, and then would put Ospreay over in a rematch. Of course the problem there is, would he come back for a rematch, and if so, would he not again try to change the finish? The promotion apparently felt Vader over strong made no sense, and that the first match would be such that their audience wouldn't be hot to see a rematch. So they went with the idea of having Dunne cause Ospreay's loss so it would build a program for them. The idea was to build for Ospreay and Ricochet, both members of that match in Japan that Vader knocked, against Vader and Dunne. Whether that match actually takes place or not is something else, or whether Vader does come back, but Ospreay vs. Dunne in a singles match is on their next show on August 26. Vader has since claimed his performance was due to a back injury that was so painful he could barely move, and he needed an injection just to do the match. There is no date or announcement for such a tag match right now. The match helped the promotion in the sense that more people in the UK are aware of them, social media numbers grew, and more important to them, their mailing list grew. It does build Ospreay vs. Dunne up as a bigger program, and that's the future. They hope that fans who came the first time to see Vader vs. Ospreay like the undercard, which was really strong, and will now become regular supporters. The show sold out. And they are taking it as a positive that people cared about Ospreay so much that they were so upset about the finish. All I can say is this. If this leads to a tag match and Vader does the job for Ospreay, this sort of makes sense, but they shouldn't have done the Vader kicking out of 2 shooting star presses. I've seen the reaction Ospreay gets now in England after winning the Best of the Super Juniors, and he clearly has the mentality about not worrying about winning and losing, but if you've got a native superstar who can be a big hero, he should be booked like it. And losses should only be there to set up something bigger, as opposed to the idea that you can get a big reaction by beating him because it's all hardcore fans who get mad. Zack Sabre Jr. beat Jeff Cobb in the semi. As the match went on, the crowd was more and more for Cobb. Sabre won after a series of penalty kicks and Cobb kicked out just after the 3 count. The finish didn't get over as people didn't buy Sabre's penalty kicks as a finisher, and the crowd booed Sabre when it was over because they By the end, wanted Cobb to win. Cobb's power moves got over big. Cobb got a standing ovation and promoter Andy Quildan said that Cobb would be on the Revolution Pro Show in Orlando over Mania weekend. Ricochet had pinned Dunn earlier with the Benadryller. Both shook hands, but then Dunn jumped Ricochet after. Chris Hero beat Marty Scurll in the best match on the show. Hero won with a pile driver off the middle rope and both got a big ovation when it was over. Shaw Samuels beat Big Damo, since he's leaving for WWE, with a choke. In the opener, Jay White from Raw/New Japan beat Josh Bodom. Strong opener. White won with a Boston Crab and got over strong. White is going to become a regular with the promotion. Ospreay said in an interview on the Mystery Island podcast that he won't be signing with Evolve. In another interview, he said he was really mad how the entire Vader situation went down and that his plan to save his body is to create a trios championship with he and 2 other wrestlers that he will defend in the UK. This seems to come from Japan, where they protect the bodies of the top stars by having them work tags and trio every night and save themselves for the big shows, which is also how it's done in Mexico. Ospreay's idea is to do mostly trios matches in the UK and limit his singles matches to big shows internationally. Ospreay did an interview with the Tag Rope and said that his contract with New Japan requires them to oversee any agreements he were to sign outside of the Japanese market. He noted that he does have a contract from Evolve, but it's unlikely he would be signing it. He's since said that he won't be signing it. He said New Japan works with Raw and if he signs a US deal, New Japan would probably like it to be with Raw. He said ultimately it is his decision. He said that he wants to do less wrestling and spend more time in England. He said he wants to let his body heal a little bit. He said he doesn't want to leave the UK, although he said he's interested in going to WWE, but not interested right now because he's happy living in England and wants to keep going on his current path. He praised the Chaos stable and working in Japan. There was a really scary situation that actually took place on July 27, but word never got out until it aired on the What Culture TV show that aired last week. Our own Stevens, Damian Sandow, was wrestling Doug Williams. Williams went to the top rope and suddenly fell off and landed right on the top of his head. It was almost as bad as the Brock Lesnar shooting star press landing at the 2003 WrestleMania. Williams on Twitter said that he had a pinched nerve, and while on the top rope, at what was the worst time, his left leg just simply lost strength and he collapsed while on the top rope, and had no time to roll. The 10/6 WCPW show in Newcastle, England, headlined by Kurt Angle vs Cody Rhodes, will be an IF with Jim Ross, Jim Cornette and Alex Shane announcing. They must have money because Angle's price is in the $25,000 range for a match, and Ross doesn't come cheap, let alone the money it takes to get Cornette to go on an airplane to England. The Mexico debut of El Santo Jr. took place on August 13 at the Auditorio in Tijuana before what was described as a good crowd. Santo Jr. teamed with his father, El Hijo del Santo, to beat Angel Blanco Jr. and Rayman in the main event via DQ when Rayman fouled Santo. There was a lot of brawling, mask ripping and blood. The heels were going after the Santo masks, so they seemed to be building for something. The description of the match was that Santo Jr. looked slow and tentative, but that's going to be the case when you're talking about a guy in his third match. He did 2 matches in England. The heels were there to make him look good. El Hijo del Santo noted what a big deal this was to him, noting that he never was able to team with her. His father's last match came just before his father gave him permission to use the name, as his father would not allow him to use the name until he deemed him ready. Jeff Hardy will be doing a 3-day tour of Mexico with shows on November 11 in Tijuana, 11/12 in Aguascalientes and 11/13 in Neza. Jushin Liger is coming to the U.S. for several shows for Northeast Wrestling. He's working 8/25 in Pomona, New York at Provident Bank Park in a tag team match, teaming with Jeff Hardy on a show that also features Cody Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat as a referee, Ryback, Matt Hardy, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, and an appearance by Booker T. On August 26 he's in Pittsfield, Massachusetts at Wahona Park on a show that also features Rhodes, Bennett, Mick Foley, Hardys, Jerry Lawler, Jim Neidhart, and Kamaitachi. 8/27 he's at the Wappingers Falls, New York show at Duchess Stadium that usually does about 3,000 fans, headlined by Rhodes vs Kurt Angle, Liger vs Jeff Hardy, Lawler vs Brooklyn Brawler, plus Ryback, Taven, Sami Callihan, Velvet Sky, Neidhart, and Kamaitachi. And 8/28 he's at the New Arena in Bethany, Connecticut for an afternoon show headlined by Rhodes vs Callahan plus Liger, Hansen, Kamaitachi, and Donovan Dijak. Sabu has launched a GoFundMe campaign trying to raise $50,000 pay for hip replacement surgery. Chris Hero has a knee injury which he believes is a ligament strain. He was in enough pain that he couldn't do his final show on this past week's UK tour. A show in San Diego called Viva La Lucha, promoted by longtime California lucha promoter Ruben Zamora, built around Rey Mysterio Jr., drew 750 fans to a local high school as Mysterio Jr. and Phoenix beat John Morrison and Psicosis. Morrison isn't using the Johnny Mundo name on the indies due to Lucha Underground claiming ownership. As long as there's no merchandise involved that the promoters are selling, Lucha Underground should want him to get exposure with that name. Psicosis was the original one, who wrestles as Nicho in Mexico. Phoenix was a mystery partner. Lucha Underground. The company put a ton of its matches from this past season on YouTube. The most watched, by far, with 706,000 viewers as of the weekend, was the Mil Muertes vs Ivelisse match. However, no other intergender match or straight women's match did anything special at all. The Aztec Warfare match only did 41,000 and Gift of the Gods 7-Way did 60,000. The Rey Mysterio Jr. and Prince Puma and Dragon Azteca Jr. vs Johnny Mundo and Jack Evans and PJ Jack match did 33,000 viewers. The matches that topped 100,000 viewers were Puma and Pentagon Jr. vs Disciples of Death, 215,000, Puma vs Pentagon Jr., 195,000, Phoenix vs King Cuerno ladder match, 143,000, Matanza Cueto vs Mil Muertes Battle of Monsters, 137,000, and Puma vs Rey Mysterio Jr., 137,000. Row. The company sent out a press release pretty much confirming what we've been writing, that New Japan, Row and CMLL now have an official partnership, which will lead to more of CMLL's biggest stars coming to Row, and Row talent doing tours with CMLL on a regular basis. The updated lineups include the TV tapings on August 20th in Las Vegas with Bobby Fish vs Katsuyori Shibata for the TV title, Mark and Jay Briscoe vs Leo Rush and Jay White, Rocky Romero and Beretta and Toru Yano vs Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian and Kamaitachi and Rhett Titus and Kenny King vs Tama Tonga and Tanga Roa, plus also appearing RJ Lethal, Kazuchika Okada, Michael Elgin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tetsuya Naito, Evil, Adam Cole, Yujiro Takahashi, and Silas Young. The 8/27 show at MCU Field in Brooklyn has Lethal vs Cole vs Tanahashi vs Naito for the Row title, Shibata vs O'Reilly, Elgin defends the IWGP IC title against Donovan Dijak, Young Bucks and Takahashi, and Hangman Page vs Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley and Leo Rush and ACH, Fish vs Evil, Kushida vs Dalton Castle and a gauntlet with Daniels and Kazarian, Briscoes, War Machine, All Night Express, Yano and Gedo and Cheeseburger and Will Ferrara. The next show after that is 9/16 in Pittsburgh, headlined by Bucks and Cole vs Lethal and Cabana and Castle, 9/17 in Lockport, New York, featuring a Rumble for and Row title match plus Briscoes vs Colt Cabana and Castle, 9/24 in Duluth, Georgia with Jushin Liger's return vs Castle, and then the 9/30 PPV from Lowell, Massachusetts and TV tapings the next day, 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 Lowell, Massachusetts